as far as I was concerned. As I said, I came to join a dance company called Maryland Dance Theater. And Maryland Dance Theater was a company at the time that was directed by Larry Warren and co-directed by his wife Ann Warren. And that was a really wonderful company in a lot of ways. It had some problems for me, and one of those problems for me was the fact that it was so encompassing in my life that I didn't have time to do what I loved, which was working with students. And so I found that the little social life that I would have possibly had was pushed down the drain because I wanted to work with the students. So off my off times for Maryland Dance Theater, I choreographed and worked with the students at the University of Maryland. And that was really significant because at that point when I got there, there were two semi-professional companies on campus. There was Maryland Dance Theater, which was run by Larry Warren and Ann Warren, and there was Improvisations Unlimited, which was run by Mem Rosen. And for whatever reason, those were little camps. And the students that were in Maryland Dance Theater only danced with them. The students that were in Improvisation Unlimited only danced with them. Now, the exception to all those rules, of course, are the men. Because the men, there's so few men relatively that men could kind of go and do lots of different things. But for the women, and we had a department that was primarily women, the women that were not in those two companies were kind of lost. They didn't have anyone who rallied for them. So I started making dances for the students who were not in one of those companies. And after 5 years of dancing with Maryland Dance Theater, and we got to do some extraordinary repertoire with some historical works, works with new up-and-coming choreographers. We did a lot of really important work. But what I was missing was the opportunity to spend that kind of energy working on small things, which is the reason I then formed a duet company called Karen and Alvin, so we could really work on very small works, and also to work with choreographers from Washington. One of the things that was really significant about those big companies is that they kept bringing people in from New York and bringing people in from other places, whereas there were wonderful choreographers in the Washington, D.C. area. So one of our thoughts, Karen and Alvin's thoughts, was that we would use choreographers here to make work for us. And so we got works by Deborah Riley, Lisa McLaughlin, Eric Hampton, Sharon Wyrick. Sharon Wyrick did several pieces for us, but lots of things. And so that was really, really important. The other thing that was interesting to me when I came here is what was happening with what I refer to as the matriarchs of the dance community. And so there was Pola, and they were all, these matriarchs were all still making work at that time. It was really exciting to me. Pola was doing a work about the planets. And so she had gotten dancers from all different areas in the city to be different planets. And somebody was this and somebody was that. And I remember her coming up to me. And you know, I remember how she talked, and she said, she saw me one day and she said, "You will be my son." I didn't know what she was talking about. And I happened to be with Ethel Butler at the time, standing with me. And Ethel was really funny too. And I didn't realize at that point that there was this camaraderie between these two women. And Ethel said, "He already has a mother." And she says, "No, son, the son." And so, and I unfortunately, because of my contract with Maryland Dance Theater, I was not able to do it, but that was a really exciting, another really exciting thing that was going on was, this was when Liz did her famous piece at the Lincoln Memorial, and I, to this day, talk about how wonderful it was that I was probably the only dancer in Washington, D.C. that got to see it. Because I couldn't be in it. And so I remember at some point we were, Liz was talking about it, and I said, oh, I saw it. And I said, I'll tell you where I stood. And so and then she just laughed. She said, you weren't in it? I said, no, I couldn't. I said, my contract would allow me to be in that, and I really would love to. And of course I learned it, because I watched rehearsals so many times, but it was very funny. And then what was going on in the ballet community at that time, there were three, really, as far as I knew. Actually, there were a lot more than three. But three that I was involved with. There was Washington School of Ballet, there was Metropolitan Ballet, and there was National Ballet. And now there were other schools as well, but those were the big three. And it was very exciting to me because I would go to, when a choreographer came to town, they often had master classes, and you would go and you would get the this energy of this master teacher coming in. And the only thing I can compare it to is that when I was younger, growing up, I'd been a classical musician. I played French horn. And when you're a master class, like say you have a French horn master class, the master teacher would come and would pick one or two students. Now everybody in the class had played the same repertoire, so everyone knew the same pieces, and they would pick one or two people and have them play and work on the stylization, work on the musicality, work on this. And so these master teachers did that with the dance. And a lot of times now when people say we're going to have a master class, it means that they're going to come and teach a class, as opposed to come and really work on something and just get this meaty thing out of the movement. And I miss that. I really miss that a lot. When you were talking a little bit about some of the traditions of things, around that time that I came, we had these kind of little things that were going on, but we also had what was going on in the community is that sense of what is dance education again. So that was really huge. And I remember Jan Van Dyke talking about going and get a doctorate. And there, at that time, very few people were talking about getting a doctorate in dance. And still very few people who are performing artists are talking about getting a doctorate while they're doing a performance. So that was very exciting and very inspiring for me to hear people talk about the artistry of the dance and talk about the scholarship of the dance. Very, very important. And I think now we have a new crop of dancers who are well educated on the physicalness of the dance as well as the artistry of the dance, and that's very exciting. So that's my story.
I have to say that the entire DC dance community has really benefited so greatly from the generosity that you have in both sharing your work that you choreographed, working for other choreographers. I mean, it really is rare that someone of your caliber really gives of themselves so freely.
Well, thank you.
So,
I think it's important. I think it's, that's what makes it a community. When you don't do it, it doesn't become a community. It becomes, it becomes a job. It's no longer a community anymore. Thank you.